Today is January the 22nd, 2018. This is going to be number 9 in our binder. Today we're going to be dividing polynomials. So we have a few examples on division that we've done before in elementary school. So the first one, when you divide, you look at the first term. 3 is too big. It does not fit into 1. So you go and look at the second number. So now we have a 12. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. Then when it's down here, we know that we should subtract. 12 minus 12 is 0. Then bring down the 6. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. You subtract them. Our remainder is 0. Our answer or our quotient is 42. Same thing if it's longer. You look at the first term. 7 does not fit into 3, but it does fit into 30. 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. 30 minus 28 is 2. Bring down the 5. Then we look at the 25 and the 7. 7 goes into 25 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. We subtract them. Remainder of 4 or bring down the 9. Then we look again down here and the 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Remainder of 0. This is our answer. This is our quotient. When we have a fraction, the top one is our dividend. The bottom one is our divisor. So the dividend is the one that goes inside the box or the little house, and the divisor is the one that goes outside. 2 goes into 3 1 time. 1 times 2 is 2. Then when it's down here, we subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. And we know if we put a decimal and a 0 and we keep going, well, we can divide 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. We subtract. We have a remainder of 0, but this has a decimal. Our answer is 1.5. Our example here is an algebraic expression, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's just start with the first example, and I'll walk you through it. So to start today's assignment, this is the first thing you're going to do. You're going to focus. You're going to focus on the first term in the dividend, and the first term in the divisor. So you can look at it as division. I like to look at it as multiplication, but if you're going to look at it division, you're going to look at x squared divided by x. So if you're going to do x squared divided by x, we know that we have x to the 1, and when we divide variables, we subtract their exponents, so 2 minus 1 is 1. So x squared divided by x is x. To fill in the bottom part, we're going to do multiplication, just like here. It was 4 times 3 is 12 to fill in the bottom part. So x times x is x squared. Then there are 2 terms outside that are part of our divisor. You also have to multiply the x times the 3. That will give me a positive 3x. That's how you get the second term right here. We know that when it's down here, we're going to subtract or take the difference. The difference between x squared and x squared is 0. So they'll cancel each other out. And then 8 minus 3 is 5. So 8x minus 3x is 5x. Bring down the 15 plus 15, and then we start over again. First term, 5x squared. First term, 5x. So you can think of it as division, 5x divided by x. Or if you want to think of it as multiplication, what do I have to put up here? That when I multiply it by x, I get 5x. Obviously, it's 5. 5 times x is 5x. So 5x. But if I multiply the first one, I have to multiply also the second number in our divisor, plus 3. 5 times positive 3, positive 15. Then we take the difference. 5x minus 5x is 0. 15 minus 15 is 0. Okay, the answer is the quotient. It's called the quotient. That's this one right here. We should end up with a binomial. X plus 5 is my answer. Let's do it again. So my dividend is the one inside. The divisor is the one outside. We always focus on the first term. I think it's easiest if you just think about multiplication. What can I multiply a by that I get a squared? Obviously, a times a is a squared. So a squared. A times 1a is 1a squared, or just a squared. But I also have to multiply it times that negative 8. A times negative 8 is negative 8a. Then I take the difference, or I subtract. These will cancel out. Be careful with negatives. I have negative 7 minus negative 8. Well, that's a positive 1. Why? Because minus a negative will change it to a plus. So that's negative 7 plus 8. Take the difference, which is 1, and keep the sign of the larger one. So that is positive 1/8. Now bring down the negative 11. Again, we focus on the first term, 1a and 1a. Well, in order to get the same thing, we're going to have to multiply times a 1. 1 times 1a is 1a. If these match up, then you're doing the correct step. It is the correct number. 1 times 8, don't forget that it also has to be multiplied by the second one, is negative 8. Then we take the difference, or we subtract. So 1a minus 1a is 0, or cancel out. And then negative 11 minus negative 8, we'll change that to a plus, so that's going to be negative 3. And there's no more numbers to bring down, so this is our remainder. And this is our quotient, which is our answer. A plus 1. Alright, let's look at the third one. This third one, it is the first one that actually has a coefficient in front of the x squared. It's the same thing. You can think of it as division or multiplication. What would I multiply? What do I have to put up here? That when I multiply times 2x, I get 4x squared. Well, 2x squared times 2x squared, 2 times 2 is 4, x times x squared. So these two match up, so that's the correct one. But don't forget, to get the second term, you multiply it by the second term in our divisor. 2x times negative 1x, negative 2x. Then take the difference. Subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. 4 minus a negative 2. If you're not sure, use your calculator. That's where some people are messing up a lot. Make sure you use your calculator if you're not sure. 4 minus a negative 2, enter, plus a positive 6. Why? Because when I subtract a negative minus a negative, changes this to a positive. 4 plus 2 is 6. X, and now bring down the minus 3. Again, we focus on the first term, 6x and 2x. You can think of it as multiplication or division. 6x divided by 2x, or what would I multiply 2x times to get a 6x? Well, obviously it's 3, or 6x divided by 2 is 3. Positive 3 times 2x is 6x, so we know that is the correct one. But don't forget, you also have to multiply by the second number in our divisor. 3 times negative 1, negative 3. Take the difference, so it's 0. Our quotient, or our answer, 2x plus 3. Alright, on this second one, we have parentheses, a division sign, and then an x minus 3. That means that this is our dividend, and this is our divisor. The one behind the division sign is always the divisor. That one is the one that goes outside. The dividend is the one that is inside. If there is no coefficient, that should be easy, because it's always going to be just the variable again. X times x will give me x squared. And then there's two terms, so make sure you also multiply the x times the second term. X times negative 3, negative 3x. Then we take the difference, or we subtract. X squared minus x squared is 0. Negative 7 minus a negative 3. That minus the negative 3 would change this to a plus 3. Negative 7 plus 3 would be a negative 4x. Why? Because we do same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. So when that minus negative will change this to a positive, there'll be different signs. So we'll subtract them and keep the sign of the larger one, the 7. Bring down the 12. Now again, we focus on the first term in our dividend, which is still this now, and then the divisor. So what do I multiply x times to get a negative 4x? Negative 4. Negative 4 times x, negative 4x. Negative 4 times 3, positive 12. They're exactly the same thing, so the difference is 0. My remainder is 0. My quotient, or my answer, after I divide them, is x minus 4. Alright, next one. B squared minus 7b plus 10 inside, b minus 1 outside. So if you are trying to work this out, I would pause it here and see if you could do it on your own. To get a b squared, I have to multiply it by a b. b times b is b squared. They match up, so I know I have the right term. Then b times negative 1, negative 1b. Then we subtract or take the difference. B squared minus b squared is 0. Negative b minus a negative 1 will change this to a positive. So I have negative 7 plus 1 is 6, because there'll be different signs. And you keep the sign of the larger one, which would be the negative 7. Bring down the positive 10. Let's focus again on the first term. First term. What do I have to multiply b to get a negative 6b? Negative 6 times b will give me negative 6b. Then multiply the second term in the divisor. Negative 6 times negative 1, positive 6. Take the difference. These will subtract. 10 minus 6, 4. My remainder is 4. My quotient, which is the answer, is b minus 6. Next example. 10x squared minus 13x minus 3, 5x plus 1. Focus on the first term. In order for me to get a 10x squared down here, 5 times 2x. 5 times 2 is 10. X times x, x squared. That's correct. They match up. Let's not forget to multiply times the 1 also. 2x times 1, positive 2x. So the hard part here is just matching this one up. Okay, so once you have that, then you just multiply your quotient up here times the divisor to get the bottom part. Take the difference or subtract. 10x squared minus 10x squared is 0. 13 minus 2. Minus 2 is going to be negative 15x. Bring down the minus 3. Again, focus on the first term. Here and here. Negative 15x divided by 5 is negative 3, or negative 3 times 5, negative 15. Negative 15x. Don't forget to multiply the second term. Negative 3. The difference is 0. This is my answer. Next example. The top one is the dividend. The bottom one is the divisor. So inside the box, x squared plus 14x plus 38. X plus 8 is on the outside. Again, if there's no coefficient, then that should always start with the same variable. X times x, x squared. Don't forget to multiply also the 8 once you know what you're starting with. X times 8 is just positive 8x. Take the difference or subtract. X squared minus x squared is 0. 14 minus 8 is 6x. Bring down the 38. And again, focus on the first term, 6x, 1x. 6 times x will give me 6x, and it's a positive 6, so put plus 6. 6 times 8, positive 48. Then subtract or take the difference. That'll be negative 10. So this is my remainder, negative 10. And this is the quotient, my answer, x plus 6. Next example, x squared plus 3x minus 40. That's my dividend. This is my divisor. Again, there's no coefficient in front, so it should just be the variable again. X times x, x squared. Then x times negative 5, negative 5x. Then take the difference or subtract. X squared minus x squared is 0. 3 minus a negative 5. Well, that is going to change that to a plus. So that's going to be 3 plus 5 is 8x. Bring down the minus 40. Again, if you're not good with negatives, just use your calculator. 3 minus a negative 5, positive 8. Focus on the first term. 8 times x will give me 8x, positive 8. Positive 8 times x will give me 8x, so you know it's the right number because they match up. 8 times negative 5, negative 40. Difference? There's no difference because they're exactly the same. So my answer is x plus 8. Last one here. 2x squared plus 13x plus 30, x plus 10. So focus on the first term, 2x squared, x. So when I multiply, I need a 2. So when I multiply, I get a 2 down here. But then I also need an x because 2x times x will give me 2x squared. Don't forget that. Thank you. Then once you multiply that one, remember there's also a 10 there. So 2x times 10 will give me a positive 20x. Then we subtract or take the difference. 2 minus 2 is 0. X minus x is 0. 13 minus 20, negative 7x. Bring down the positive 30. Again, focus on the first term, negative 7x and x. Negative 7 times x will give me negative 7x. Negative 7 times 10 will give me negative 70. Since we're subtracting, be careful. Okay, that'll change that to a positive. So negative 7 plus 7 will be 0. And then negative 30, minus a negative 70. That'll change that to a positive 70. 30 plus 70 is 100. If you're not sure, again, just use the calculator. This is my remainder, 100. This is my answer. The quotient, 2x minus 7. Alright, let me show you real quick how to check your answer. I have only figured out how to check your answer if there's no remainder. So I don't know how to check this one yet in the calculator. But I do know how to check this one. If your remainder is 0, this one we can check. So you're going to start with you're going to go to a graph, You're going to, there's that glare. Type that in. So the dividend goes first. Open parentheses, make sure, because it's a polynomial, you want to use parentheses. So it's going to be open parentheses x squared plus 3x minus 40. Close parentheses. Divided by x plus 5. Close parentheses. Alright, then hit enter. Alright, so it looks kind of weird, but that's not a problem. Then hit tab and let's plug in our answer. X plus 8. Oh, I think I did something wrong. Hold on. So it was x squared plus 3x minus 40. Oh, divided by x minus 5, and I put plus 5. So let me change that. Minus 5. Enter. Okay, when you graph the problem and you graph the answer, they should graph right on top of each other. So I graph the problem, then I graph my answer, and then they graph right on top of each other. See how the equations are right on top of each other? The red graphed on top of the blue. So that's how I know that it is the right answer. Okay, backside is your homework. Alright, go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, you can send me a message to remind. There's also tutoring with other teachers. I'll have tutoring tomorrow after school. Alright, this is due tomorrow.